Hi, my name is Ben. I'm one of the co-directors of the PennVention competition. Congratulations again on making it to the semifinal round. This year we received the most first round submissions in our history, nearly 100 in total. And your teams marked the most impressive 25. Teams here are doing everything from helping physical therapy patients recover more quickly using wearable devices, to constructing a high-altitude satellite communication platform, to managing large crowds using simulation software. We're very excited to have you all, and we're looking forward to seeing what the round brings. Before I go into some logistical items around 4:50, I want to welcome our first of several mentorship speakers during the competition. He also happens to be one of my professors, and I know for a fact that he has an incredible amount of wisdom and experience to share with you all at the intersection of entrepreneurship and law. Professor Sangha is an entrepreneur, business executive, and strategist who is at the forefront of incorporating modern technology into the legal and financial services sectors. He is a professor at Penn Law and the founder of Intelligize, an information services company that helps business professionals more easily research and analyze M&A deal terms, contract clauses, SEC filings, and corporate governance documents. Intelligize is one of the fastest growing legal technology companies in the U.S. and counts as its customers most of the top 25 law firms, half the big four accounting firms, and a third of the Dow Jones Industrial Average components. It is my pleasure to welcome you.
Hi everyone, welcome. So the game plan for today, I'll tell you a bit about myself and my journey, and then we'll discuss some matters that are going to be very relevant to all of you. So we'll go through patents, trademarks, incorporation process, a little bit of fundraising options. I understand there'll be other mentors that'll talk about that, but I'll give you my 2 cents. And then we'll discuss working with attorneys. I swear it's not all bad. Some of it can be good too. And then I think we're going to leave about 15 minutes at the end for questions. Yeah, so feel free to ask any question you want, and I'll give you my 2 cents. So about me, I'm a corporate lawyer by training. So I don't have any tech background, don't have any business background. I worked on Wall Street as an attorney, just doing IPO work, whatnot. And then I worked in Hong Kong doing debt deals in Asia. And when I did this work, I realized that no matter where in the world I went, it sucked. It was really, really tedious. And I didn't go to law school to do this. So I pulled my fellow attorneys and they said, you know what, yeah, your hunch is right. This is a pain point. But again, no technical knowledge, no idea if you can actually take an idea and make it happen. And I did not have the intellectual horsepower that you guys have. I was probably a bit more foolish, but I decided to take a gamble. I decided to quit my job. I convinced my coworkers to back me. I don't know if they thought of me as a budding entrepreneur rock star, or they thought of me as a really crappy lawyer they wanted to get kicked out. But somehow they gave me money. Came to America in 2007. My timing was perfectly terrible. I came in right when the financial crisis started. My goal was to help with IPOs, public offerings, and the market just collapsed. I tell people it's because I'm Canadian and I smile a lot, but I somehow managed to raise a $300,000 angel round without any product, without a team, just me and PowerPoint. I then managed to raise 3 rounds of venture financing all by myself as well. I mean, I swear to God, I'd be the best criminal. I raised $5 million in venture capital as well during the financial crisis. And so I've done this dance, and it was a much more challenging time back then than it is right now. Learned a lot, so I can share with you a lot of my learnings. But I took those resources and, made some mistakes, but did a lot of things right. And I created one of the fastest growing legal tech companies in America. We are growing at about 40% year over year. So it's, fingers crossed. It'll be a good financial outcome for everyone. I teach at Penn right now. I do some consulting for big companies that try to drag them into the 21st century. And I'm working actually with some folks at Penn on my next startup. I want to solve litigation in the world, and we're going to use machine learning and big data to do it. Fingers crossed, I think I can build the biggest legal tech outcome ever. That's my goal. So that's a bit about me. So let's go through some discussion topics on matters that will be relevant to you. So first, let's discuss patents. So let's recognize what patents are and what they aren't, right? So just because you have a patent doesn't mean you're off to the races and can go hang out in South Beach where, and sue people that try to touch your IP or just bask in your glory, right? There's obviously stories, like, I don't know if you know, if you ever go to Amazon.com, you have that one click? They're actually able to patent that. So people actually have to pay royalties to Amazon if you do that one click. So it sounds good, but let's put things in perspective though. The thing about a patent is, what I like to say here is it's the least bad way to protect your IP. The first thing to know about a patent is that it's only as useful as your ability to enforce your rights. You guys are really sharp guys. No one doubts your energy, your wisdom. I suspect you probably don't have the financial resources of a Google or a Microsoft. If they really wanted to take your IP, there really isn't a heck of a lot you can do about it, because they can just bleed you dry through the court process, right? So recognize what a patent can't do, right? Just because you get it doesn't mean, hey, I'm protected, right? I can go to the courts. It has value, but understand what it is, right? If Apple wanted to go against you, steal your idea, and they literally just reverse engineered it, you really can't do a heck of a lot, right? Again, folks, we're in the world of business, right? It's cutthroat. It's not ideal, right? We're ethical, good people. Others may not be, right? That's part of the game, right? I don't make the rules. It's not how it is, right? So understand what it can't do. Also, what's happening is because of patent trolls, and this is going to be relevant to everyone that does software startups. What's happened is because of patent trolls coming in, basically getting some random IP, and then basically holding up companies, last year the Supreme Court really loosened the power of software patents. So they made it even more weaker. What it means in a nutshell is Google or Microsoft don't even have to be bad apples to steal your idea. They can just go to the court and say, you know what, this patent is BS. It's not innovative. And they probably have the sharp attorneys that can actually do that. So recognize that. Hardware side, definitely more relevant. Definitely more relevant. Okay, then why are there still IP lawyers in the world, right? Why haven't they all gone out of business, right? They must be doing something right. So there are certain value that come from a patent. First, just the marketing aspects, right? It tells you something, that you did something innovative, right? So imagine going into a sales meeting. Hey, we have this product, it's patent protected. Imagine discussing with an investor, or hopefully one day an acquirer, right? We have X many patents, right? What it means is you created something. So it's a signaling mechanism, right? So it is still useful. So there is value in that. And sure, along the lines, you can protect your rights, but again, that big caveat, you're going to have those legal and financial resources to protect it, right? But there is still value to be had in the patent. All right, so let's say, you know what, we agree, patents are useful, we're going to go through the process. It's also important to know, I filed a patent before. It's a multi-year process. It's not like the Patent and Trademark Office is going to stamp it to you and say, here you go, right? It's actually a very, very cumbersome process. There's a lot of back and forth, a lot of give and take. It's not easy, necessarily, to get a patent. So again, if it's your primary line of defense, you're in trouble, right? But if it's a portfolio of things you're doing to enhance your brand, enhance your reputation, and then somewhere down the line to protect you, it's a very good strategy. Other thing to note is that patents are incredibly expensive. The average lawyer charges $400 an hour. Any patent lawyer worth their salt that you'd want to work with is probably going to charge $500 an hour. Do the math, right? I'm a lawyer. I'm not a math guy. You guys are. Do the math, right? Gets expensive quickly, right? So there are solutions. So a provisional. If you haven't done it already, you should definitely file a provisional patent. So what a provisional patent is basically, think of it as a timestamp. So you file your place in line, and it gives you 1 year to then make your initial patent application. So it's a way to put yourself in line. If things go good, you have some resources, you raise some angel or venture financing, and you want to put 5,000–10,000 into the patent process, that's great, but you push that financial decision off 12 months, right? Yep.
Is that when people say it's patent pending?
Correct.
Is that
Exactly. Exactly.
Does that still require some sort of barrier? Is it that you have to prove something still and not like the original process?
Let's go and I'll show you. So I'm about to file a provisional for my next idea, and I'll show you what the intake form looks like. I shouldn't be sharing this, but the lawyer's a good guy, so please use him. Think of it as a marketing tool for the lawyer, and he's cheap. So this is what a patent intake form looks like. So the great thing about a provisional is that it really requires you to do all the work. And again, you guys are awesome rock stars. I'm sure your time is worth $1,000 an hour. It's still cheaper for you to do it than have a lawyer do it, right? So here's what it looks like. So background information, short title of your invention, what is the commercial application for this invention, the name, date, technical problem, what problem are you trying to solve, how have others attempted to solve this problem, attach any relevant publications, information. Basically, what have you done that's new? Describe your solution, any drawings, whatnot. How does your solution differ from prior art? Because that's how they're going to attack it, right? And trust me, if you do something cool, innovative, somebody's going to attack it, right? Because they want to be able to reverse engineer and sell it themselves, right? And then key dates. Yeah, be careful with this. Outside disclosure, it impacts your timing and whatnot. That's a separate conversation. Ownership. And you may have to assign it to your company or your startup, right? If somebody else created it. So let's give this lawyer credit. He's a good guy. I'm going to use him. Markowski. That's his patent intake form. So that's what a provisional looks like. It's basically as if you were trying to prepare your own patent application. Strongly recommend filing provisional. Costs about $500. Yeah.
For current students, should we file provisionals with PCI or?
You need to check with the school on that because the school is funky about IP. Depends if you use school resources and whatnot, so I'd have to know how. If it's just you in a dorm room doing it by yourself, that's one thing. If you're using school facilities partnering up with school faculty, it gets dodgier. I can discuss with you offline, but I would defer that to people that know your situation. So that's the patent process. All right, next, trademarks. Trademark is just your brand, right? So if you have a cool name for your company, you want to protect it so that, for a couple reasons. One, obviously you don't want somebody else to steal your idea, your name, right? That would kind of suck if you put a lot of money into it and you find out somebody else took it. So what I recommend is, if you have a trademark, you also just want to protect, make sure you didn't actually take a name that was already taken, right? I'll give you an example. So I had a name for a startup. I wanted to call it Legal IQ, right? And the URL was available. Very cool name, very slick. I thought I could have bought that URL for $500. Pretty decent number. I was about to do it. I was about to begin trademarking the process. And what happened was that somebody down the chain had actually trademarked the name Legal IQ. So I was going to invest in the URL, and I was going to pay, I think, $500-600 for it, but really it was worth nothing. Because anyone who had used that URL for a legal business purpose probably would have been violating that trademark. So trademarks are good obviously to protect your name, but also to make sure you're not violating somebody else's name, because it's a pain, right? You get your business cards, your business plan, your brand out, and you realize, crap, I can't even do it, right? So I recommend using trademark. It's, you know, it's $275. It's and you can, more importantly, you can do patent searches, or not, trademark searches rather. So any name you have, make sure no one's taken it, right? And then they can begin the process for trademarking your name.
I have a question actually on,
Yeah.
you know, when you're doing these, my lawyer just said like, oh, go ahead and do it yourself, it's fine, no problem. And so I've been filling out the trademark application through
Yep.
like the US PTO and stuff.
Yep.
You have to kind of figure out what class it's going to be and like write descriptions and stuff. I mean,
Right.
Does this site help you with that?
Yeah.
Or what's the
Yeah, they're the largest trademark filing company in the world. This guy files like something like 10-20% of all trademarks or something. So it's pretty good. It's a do-it-yourself, kind of walk you through the whole process. The thing to know about a lot of these sites and whatnot, you may have to correct it later on, right? But that's tomorrow's problem, right? Right now, cash is important. Your time is important, right? So doing it 90% right is probably okay for now. And even in your situation, you're probably doing it truthfully, probably 70-80% right, I suspect, right? So it's not the end of the world. But yeah, it's not too expensive. So $275, I believe. So take a look at it. At a minimum, use their free search to make sure there's nothing wrong with your product or your company names. So next issue, URLs. So it used to be that, you know what, you had to have that .com. If you didn't have that .com, it was really, really difficult for you. You can even see what the market pays. If you ever go to GoDaddy and look at names, look at .com versus .org or .net, it's just orders of magnitude in terms of value, right? And then you have these squatters and whatnot. I can tell you how to get a squatted name. It's a different class. I mean, it'll take time, but there are methods. I mean, these people aren't doing it just because they like the name, right? They're doing it to make a buck, right? So there are methods to the madness of how to do it. I've bought URLs before. But what's happening now is you're seeing a lot of non-.com startups that are doing really well. .io. I see a lot of .ios now. So it's not the end of the world if your .com URL isn't there. If you're consumer oriented, it'll be tougher though, right? So, you know, there are examples of non.com consumer successes. I mean, Delicious was the first one, right? Box.net started off as .net. Even Facebook was a .net initially, right? But if you're a consumer, you're eventually going to have to get that .com. If you're enterprise, B2B, you can survive with the .io, in my opinion. It shouldn't be a deal breaker. But again, watch out for the trademark, right? It doesn't pay to basically get a .io or a .org when there's already a company there and they trademarked their name, right? But if you have a squatter, it could make sense, right? Because again, right now, your time and your money is very scarce, right? If you blow up, you'll have the resources to buy that .com, and they'll happily sell it to you, right? So don't let that try to harm your business. Just make sure the trademark's not an issue. Get the .io. Get the .io if you love your name. Next, incorporation. LegalZoom apparently does about 1/4 of all California incorporations. So it's definitely not the wrong place to look. Depending on how you want to do it, how quickly you want to do it, costs again a couple $100. With that being said, I give you 90 to 95% chance you have to revise that. Articles of incorporation and whatnot, just to account for your situation, right? Because again, every company is unique, every financial situation is unique, but to get you started, get incorporated, that's a simple and easy way to do it.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
When is it a good time to start the incorporation? Should it be from the very beginning, or like how far into the whole startup?
Sure. It's a personal choice. We actually have a class about this. I'm going to teach this afternoon about that. If you're going to go into business, I think you should probably start some form of entity very quickly. An LLC gives you the most protection, and it's very flexible. So when Facebook started, they were an LLC. It was the Facebook LLC. So you should probably start something quickly. If you're going to try to get investment, you should then get a Delaware corporation set up. I'm guessing you missed the window, but anyone who got incorporated last year, 2014, there's you have a qualified small business exemption for capital gains. So basically, if you got acquired, if you hold the company for 5 years and you get acquired, the first $10 million, you're not paying any federal capital gains tax. So, got a lot of Republicans, right? So they may extend it, but look into it. So there's some advantages of doing a corporation. If you're gonna take money in, you're gonna partner up. Corporation is the simplest way to go. So I wouldn't invest my first dollar into it. You may want to invest it in your product and whatnot. It would definitely be on my early things to do. And frankly, I don't think anyone's going to talk to you unless you have a corporation. Like, I'm beginning to fundraise soon, and I've already set up my corporation, but it's one of those things you have to do. That being said, you can do it in an afternoon. Not through LegalZoom. LegalZoom, if you want to get a Delaware C Corp set up, it will take you about 2 weeks. But most law firms worth their salt will have what they call shelf companies. So they have these companies already available on their shelf, and they'll just sell it to you for 50% markup or whatever. Most attorneys, we'll talk about attorneys' fees in a sec. We'll also just do it for free for now, and you can pay them later. So that's another way to do it. Any law firm that's going to want to work with you should do it. It's fine if they charge you, as long as they defer it, right? If they charge you and say, pay me, you probably don't want to work with those law firms. Fundraising options. Again, this could be a whole course, right? Just a couple of things, give you my 2 cents. I've raised 4 rounds of financing. I've seen the good, the bad, and everything in between. So one thing I'd ask is, why are you doing this startup? Because your answer impacts your financing choices that you should make. Are you doing it to get rich? Are you doing it to make a difference in the world? Are you doing it to dip your toes in startupism? Are you doing it for just a career? These things have an impact. In general, venture is very, very expensive money. It really only pays to get venture if you think this could be a north of $100 million outcome. To get to a north of $100 million outcome, lots of variables. Generally, you have to have a quick path to $30 million in revenue. Why? Because the way it's structured is that you need the pie to be so big that it's useful for you. One thing to remember is when you take in investor money, you're at the bottom of the totem pole, right? So everybody else that's coming in is going to get their money out first, then you. So venture has its uses, right? It's kind of like, again, bad analogy, it's kind of like fire, right? If you use it right, it's very powerful. If you use it wrong, it can get you in trouble. So how can venture get you in trouble? A couple issues. The main one is controlled dilution. In general, you're going to give up 20% of your company on a good deal in your initial venture round, right? You're going to have to give up 15% for your employee option plan. So assuming you're a sole founder, you're already close to 50% in equity as a group, right? You kick butt, you get one more round, you're a minority shareholder. You lost control. 2 rounds. Yep.
Does it matter how much non-dilutive financing you raise?
Yeah, because it depends on the valuation, right? So if you get crazy valuations, you're not gonna get that much dilution, right? And if you're really high, you have a lot of competition, you can then negotiate some control rights and whatnot. So on paper though, this is the standard result, right? So what you wanna do is you wanna delay the venture process as long as possible. And if you're gonna do it, get competition. Get multiple VCs interested. That is your best bet. Get knowledgeable about the deal terms, how the process works, so nothing sneaky happens. So what does that mean? You're probably thinking, I need cash now, no one else is gonna give it to me. That is true. Venture will give you money. Okay, that money has a hell of a lot of strings attached to it though, right? So again, are you doing it because you wanted something cool? You know, you wanna make an impact. Okay, you know what? That's not bad. Take the venture money. Are you doing it to get rich? It's actually not. They've done several studies where venture may not be the best way for you to get rich. Here's the results. 1/3 of venture-backed companies come back with a donut, right? 1/3 are flat. If they're flat, you're not making any money, right? Because they're getting their money out first, right? 1/3 blow up, right? Of that 1/3 that blow up, doesn't mean they're crushing it. A lot of those 1/3 blow-ups are companies that have done a ton of financings, that have diluted the founders down, or done all sorts of other stuff, right? If you're doing it to get rich, honestly, go to Wall Street. It's a much more effective approach than startupism. And they did studies about this, right? So understand, again, ask yourself why you're gonna do this, right? And even if you do this, the money's only gonna come at the very end. I'm pretty asset rich. You know, I guess I'm top 0.001%. I'm not cash rich. My company's still going, right? So even bankers get paid once a year. In startupism, it's going to come back a decade from now, right? So make sure what you're doing is more meaningful than trying to make a buck, because there's better ways to make a buck, frankly. And you're at Penn, you have easy access to Wall Street, right? So remember that. So if you're going to do it, okay, try to delay it as long as possible. What does that mean? Get angel money, get grants, hustle, get your customer to front you cash. There's lots of, you guys are all creative people. There's lots of ways to push back that moment when you need venture. And even when you do, having that track record will significantly impact your valuation. Look, I got venture money based off of a PowerPoint. Pretty impressive. I had to give up a lot too, right? Now, I was fortunate because I didn't have a co-founder, so it didn't really hit me that bad, but I suspect a lot of you do have co-founders. So that pie gets short very quickly, right? But look, it could be the only way. And there's no way for you to know, are you gonna be that 1/3 that blows up or the 1/3 that crashes, right? You're all very young, it's all a learning experience. So you may not have a chance to do anything but venture. That's fine, But doesn't mean you can't do best practices, right? Best practices, how to delay it. Best practices, how to get multiple VCs interested. Best practices, get knowledgeable about the venture process and deal terms, right? So, other thing, valuations. Check out Angel List. When you're negotiating your valuation, Angel List will tell you what companies are getting. What the normal pre-valuation is, 25.75, and it's not showing here, but for some reason not showing this resolution, but you can also do things like look at San Francisco versus New York versus Boston and whatnot. But when someone asks you, okay, why are you picking that pre-money valuation? You want to go say, you know what, right now market's 4 million, I'm not market, I'm better than that, I'm 75 percentile. 75 percentile is 6 million. Y Combinator back companies are getting 10, you're getting a deal. You have to have some basis, right? So definitely look at Angel List as well. Sure.
You're talking a Series A here, right? Because if we do angel, we will expect convertible notes, right?
If you do an angel, we'll do convertible notes, we have to put up a cap though.
Okay,
So
so it's going to become, I understand.
Right?
Thank you.
Yeah, when I did it, I didn't have to do a cap. This time around, even I'm gonna have to do a cap. And then lastly, just working with attorneys. So I've worked with good attorneys, I've worked with kind of crappy attorneys. What do crappy attorneys do? They're not gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna mess up. Most lawyers are pretty competent. A crappy attorney is not gonna go to bat for you, right? He's not really going to, because again, for them, they're in this venture community, they don't wanna really go hard against the VC, they may be working with that VC in the future, right? So you gotta know this stuff, right? So get references, find, startup entrepreneurs who are like, I work with that guy, he was a good guy, he had my back, he gave me great advice, right? I'm happy to reference you people, by the way. There's a bunch of rock stars that are just, work with founders and do great things with them. Any lawyer worth his salt should be able to work for you for free. If he believes in your idea, he should do a deferral arrangement. If a lawyer's like, hey, pay me now, run. You don't want to work with that guy. What does that mean? That means two things. That means that, one, that lawyer is not sophisticated in modern startupism, or two, he doesn't believe in your idea, right? If he believes in your idea, he's going to want you to keep all that capital in, right? He's going to want to be your inside counsel when you take it to the A round, the B round, the C round, M&A, IPO, what have you, right? Just so you know, lawyers make a loss off the initial round, right? Because generally they'll charge, 10, 15 grand. Their average billable is probably 500, right? You gotta put more hours into that, answering questions for you. They're making a bet in you, right? Because they think you're gonna raise other rounds and hopefully get big. So if your lawyer doesn't believe in you, he's not trying to make a bet on you, I don't know, I would do two things. A, I'd just say I question him. I'd also just ask, is my business, why doesn't he, right? Look, I'm a startup entrepreneur with a background. I have lawyers that don't want to work with me. They're like, you know what? I don't like legal tech, it's not my thing. That's cool. I'm not saying he's a bad lawyer, he just doesn't believe in me, right? So it's not a bad thing, but you want to get an attorney that believes in you, because he'll take that commitment in you, right? So generally you should be able to get a lawyer to defer his fees. Again, most stuff is cookie cutter early on. How did junior attorney do it? Anyway, I think my time is up. Yeah, so question time.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's stupid, but what's the difference with, or I heard that software gets copyrights or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work, and what's the difference to patent, or how does?
Sure. So there's several ways to protect your IP. Copyright happens if it's in the public domain.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like equivalent to a song, a book, or a movie or whatnot, right? So truthfully, I'm not aware of too many situations where code per se is copywritten, right? Most code you're probably going to use is probably open source or proprietary anyway, right? So I'm not aware of too many scenarios where copyright is the most effective use for IP protection. Generally, they will use patents and provisionals.
But also for software?
Yep, also. The way a lot of big people use patents is as a defensive tool. So if Google's going to sue Apple, Apple has all these patents that they can then use to sue Google, right? So for those folks where it's big money, okay, it can make sense because they're kind of arming themselves. But for us, it's more just as a stamp of, that we're doing something innovative and impressive. Yeah.
You said that we can use patents to basically enhance our brands.
Right.
So can we also use provisional patents to enhance our
Definitely.
As in, is there an online source where these original patents are accessible for others to view?
Yes. It might be hard to get into it, but the USPTO site's all publicly available. I don't know if the provisionals are, you may have to get your lawyer to do it, but all this stuff is public. And you should definitely get a patent pending. Sounds pretty good, right? Sounds impressive. Lawyers would get it, investors would get it, and anybody else definitely gets it because to their ears, it actually looks like a patent, right? So definitely do it. Yeah.
Do trademarks have expiration dates? For example, let's say that a company has trademarks a name or a solution that you want to utilize.
Right. It depends on if it's in use or not.
I see.
So Coca-Cola, it's still in use. If the company's out of business or the trademark's expired, then you can have access to it. Yeah.
Realistically speaking, do you need a lawyer's help in order to get a patent pending, or are you able to write that yourself?
Well, again, so the example I gave you, you're basically writing it yourself, and the lawyer's going to spend 2 hours just cleaning it up and filing it. So, my 2 cents, if you're going to go through the process, it's going to cost you, $500 to $1,000 just do it right and get it up. I mean, it's not that much money in the scheme of things, and you're going to be doing 90% of the work anyway.
Okay, and when you say get someone to work for free in terms of working with the attorney, does that also apply to the patent? Like, will people like, oh, I like your idea in terms of just patenting and I can help you do this for free, or just like look it over for 2 hours maybe for what people won't really do that?
I've asked, no one's accepted. I've definitely asked them. I had Google's IP lawyer work on one of my patents. He gave me a discounted rate, but it didn't work for free. So for provisionals, we'll just basically give you cut rate deals. So they'll do it for $500, $1,000.
For trademarks, if the name is being taken and used in a different industry, can
Right.
it still be trademark for the industry you're thinking about using the name or no?
Yes.
You can
Yes.
do it.
Yes. So yeah, if you have Acme Corporation and it's a mining concern, and then you want to create Acme Corporation for big data software company, you're probably okay. But if it's Acme that's a mining company and you want to do Acme that's an oil and gas company, you make it trickier.
Okay.
So just be careful about that. Yeah.
Some more copyright questions, but like along that line, if you were doing something, should you apply for a couple different like use cases? Say like healthcare startup, should we apply for like healthcare and big data analytics, and like 'cause there's multiple different kind of like codes you can put in for your trademark that, and then like what does like getting an investment from like a different state count as each state? Does like having a website count as each state commerce versus use? Like what's the
Right. In terms of the tactics you want to apply, I defer to a patent lawyer. I don't want to give you the wrong advice, so I don't know which way it turns. In terms of if you're doing interstate commerce or not, if your website's up and you're selling, and people are accessing your website from the 50 states, you're probably doing business. Yep.
What are the major activities or function of the attorney when you go from provisional to actual utility design or design? It seems like provisional you do most of the heavy lifting, they just kind of monitor it, but
Right.
what are the major
So at that point, it just gets very technical. So a proper patent application, they have the diagrams and whatnot. It's very, I don't want to say insidery, but it's something that you and I as laymen couldn't really do. Because they've done the process, they know the dance, so they know how to word it and structure the filing to maximizes your chances of getting it approved. And they also do the back and forth negotiation with the officials in Washington as well. Yep.
If you end up outsourcing coders and you want to patent your idea, not necessarily your code, is that still the same process?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
And then would your coders also need to patent their code, or?
The coders need to assign the code and idea to you,
Okay.
and then you patent.
So then, the person who came up with the idea would technically own the code, even if I wasn't the one who wrote the code?
The first person to file owns the patent.
Okay.
So if you give that idea to someone offshore and they file a provisional, you're in trouble.
Is that true even if you have like IP assignment documents, like you have restricted covenants?
Yeah, you should, if you have that place, you're fine officer. Now, then you can sue them, right? Other questions? Okay, great. Thanks, folks.
Great. Thanks very much. I guess I want to just lay out some of the logistical details before we wrap up here. So between now and the end of March, that's sort of when the semifinal round is going to take place. Between now and then, We're going to host around 2 or 3 more of these sort of mentorship classroom-style talks. We're also going to have 3 to 4 mentors assigned to work with each of your teams individually. So they're typically Penn grads all over the country from engineering or business backgrounds. And the way it's going to work is we're going to ask you over the next week, we're going to send you an email, we're going to ask you what you need the most help with, whether that's hardware or software or legal or marketing. And we're going to ask the mentors what their areas of expertise are, and then we're going to do this matching process where each of you is going to get like 3 to 4 people to work with you individually, and you guys can set up a phone call or Skype or even an in-person meeting, depending on how your schedules line up. The final deliverable of the semifinal round, I'm sure you're all curious, it's going to be a little more demanding than just a 5-slide deck. So on March 21st, we're going to ask that every team submits a video pitch, somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes long. It's the parameters, we're going to finalize it in the next week or so, but broadly speaking, it's going to include some sort of demonstration of a prototype, or if it's software, some sort of screenshots or walkthrough. We were going to ask you to discuss sort of what your progress to date has been. Most importantly, what your progress over the last month has been. One of the unique features of PennVention is that we're able to give you around $200 in funding, which is not a whole lot, but we're hoping you guys can sort of put it to some use. And then we're also going to ask you to discuss sort of your market, your financials, sort of your plan, your 6-month plan going forward. So the final deliverable, like I said, will be this 3 to 5 minute video. This will actually be the first year where we have some of our assistants in the Weiss Tech House, Stephanie being the foremost. She's going to help us, or help you guys sort of put together your videos, and she can help you film and edit. So we really are looking for some high quality pitches here, and hopefully they can help you out with that. So the way it'll work is you'll submit those pitches on March 21st. March 29th, a week later, our judges will have their scores in. We will announce the 8 finalist teams, so 25 to 8. And then those 8 teams will deliver sort of 10-minute pitches and do Q&A on Wednesday, April 8th at 6 p.m. In Wu and Chen Auditorium. We fill the whole place up. We'll have a live panel of judges. And we'll pick our top 3 from there, and then there will also be named prizes. Anyway, I just wanted to give you guys sort of a lay of the land, how it's going to work. We're also going to send out a more detailed document later this evening to all of you, including a link to what happened here, as well as sort of just a comprehensive document that lays out the resources that are available to you and the timeline. If there are any questions now that I can briefly answer, I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, you have our contact info. Anything? All right, cool. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.